how many clinical trials across the country have been impacted by the grants you have terminated, frozen, or delayed?
Senator, I don't have the numbers for the specific number of trials. We've worked to make sure that the patients enrolled in the clinical trials have any delay in their care as a result of in 2020, the NIH terminated a very large number of clinical trials.
Well, I'm asking you about today,
So, I mean,
under
I
your
don't have the
direction.
specific numbers, and a lot of that is subject to negotiation. I've set up a process where people can appeal for if there's any decisions made regarding grant pauses and terminations, and we're actively working to make sure that we can make that appeals process is going. The numbers are in flux, and we'll have to get some of those numbers to you later.
We do know that patient care is being impacted at your own clinical center and in more than 100 clinical trials in the country. On May 30th, you terminated a 23-year research effort to develop an HIV vaccine, just as scientists, including at the Fred Hutch Center in Seattle, are on the cusp of a functional cure for HIV. Terminating those HIV vaccine trials now cuts off access to treatment for 6,000 patients in the network. You canceled a clinical trial evaluating new evidence-based interventions for type 2 diabetes in rural communities in Appalachia. You terminated a clinical trial studying immunotherapy in combination with monoclonal antibodies to treat women with recurrent ovarian cancer. That is what has already happened. So now you are coming to us today proposing to cut NIH funding by 40% next year. Tell us, how many fewer clinical trials would you fund in the next fiscal year with a budget cut of $18 billion?
Senator, can I just address the HIV? Because I am absolutely committed to in 2019, President Trump issued a challenge for us to eliminate the threat of HIV in this country, and we've had a 22% reduction in HIV transmission since then. We now have the technological tools to do that, and I've been working on developing a program to actually implement this vision so we can use
But you did
new
terminate
advances.
the HIV research at Fred Hutch that, again, was on the cusp of a treatment for 6,000 patients nationwide. You did do that.
I'd have to get back to you on that.
You did do that. Okay.
I disagree with this administration on so many things, but this is the one that really gets to me personally. To think that this nation would walk away from medical research. For God's sake, we lead the world in medical research. Why would we give up on it? I look at the specifics here. Cancer. 2025, 2 million new cases of cancer will be diagnosed in the United States. 600,000 people will die from that disease. Yet your budget requests a 38% cut, 38% to the National Cancer Institute. 7 million people nationwide are living with Alzheimer's. This disease, of course, is devastating to families. It robs them of their loved ones. Yet your budget requests a 39% cut to the National Institute of Aging. When you look at specific schools, of course, I'm concerned about Illinois. We have great research there. Northwestern University has not received a penny for NIH grants in 11 weeks. 1,359 NIH awards to Northwestern have been frozen or terminated, halting $81 million in research to date. I could go through some of the specifics of this research, but it includes $9 million in clinical trials for brain cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, childhood cancer. How are you able to reconcile these budget decisions with the reality of research and what it means to alleviate suffering and, more importantly, to give people hope? If research is underway, you at least have the hope that maybe there'll be a cure, maybe in the lifetime of someone I love. How can you walk away from that?
Well, Senator, my intention not to walk away from that. I mean, I think that—
But the budget speaks for itself. You cut $18 billion in research.
Senator, the budget is a collaboration between Congress and the administration. So, I look forward to talking about the advances that NIH researchers have made. I mean, I think the transition has been a very bumpy time, and I don't mean to downplay that, but there have been opportunities for reform for how the biomedical research enterprise works. I think the decisions about Northwestern happened before I got into office. But let me just say that
Buck stops in your office.
I know it
now.
does. So let me just say that
Don't blame another person.
I'm not blaming anyone.
We're asking you, and you're in charge.
Senator, I agree with that. So let me just say that I think that the way that the universities operated during the pandemic didn't always make it easy for scientists to do their work. I can tell you that personally from being a professor, and I think some of the
But eliminating grants, eliminating research, how can that solve the problem?
So I think that I'm very hopeful that a resolution can be made with the universities where those decisions have been those grants have been paused. I've worked very hard to make sure, for instance, at Harvard, we didn't pause grants, for instance, to the medical centers because there were clinical trials going on. But I think that I'm very hopeful that these universities, where these pauses have happened, will come to terms so that we can move forward with the agenda that I think you and I both share.
Well, let me say this. I am personally disappointed. You know, you try as a senator to pick one or two areas and really make a difference. And I think this committee and the members of this committee on both sides made a difference, dramatic difference, 60% increase in NIH research over the last 10 years. You've wiped it out, just wiped it out. And now we start anew. And forget my disappointment, the disappointment of the people sitting behind you who are counting on this research for hope for tomorrow, that life will be better for them and their families.